Morning again. This is a video again about 3D flying, and this one is about the hover. The one yesterday that I made was about the Harrier. The Harrier recommended, fantastic, really good. The hover, less important, harder to learn, takes more time to practice and learn how to do the hover than the Harrier, but it does have its uses too. And I want to talk about a couple of things. One is the throws of the aeroplane. You do need to have fairly significant control deflections on all the surfaces to be able to do a hover, to enter and exit them easily. In real flight you can go to aircraft, quick edit, and you can set the deflections right here quite easily for the deflections of the control surfaces. Next I want to talk about is the height that we should hover at. Let's get up into a hover. It's tempting to go all the way up here and learn how to hover, but that's actually makes it more difficult. It's harder to see the plane, and it's basically harder to see the plane, harder to control. So let's bring it back down again. If you do the hover closer to the ground, then it's easier to see what's happening and to maintain the hover. It's important to note too that essentially when you're in a Harrier, etc., you don't have a lot of right aileron, but when you're in a hover, you definitely do. I'll show you why in a sec and how much. We need to, once it starts to stabilise and stop in place, you need a lot of right aileron to stop the torque of the motor from rolling the plane around against where you're trying to go. Now the height of it, also at this height, you might think that's very dangerous because it's close to the ground. It's actually not too bad. If we were to say crash, if I do something silly, there's not going to be a lot of damage done to the plane when we're this close to the ground. We're essentially not moving, so there's no speed involved, and we've also got no height. So even though it seems silly to be hovering so low to the ground, it's actually reasonably safe to do. Okay, so ways to enter the hover. It's important to note that, well, there's a few ways to do it. One is to just simply pull back on the stick, add your rudder and aileron as you need, and there we go. Okay. Another way is to take note of the fact that if you're doing a Harrier, then a hover is just a really steep Harrier, essentially. So if I go along with the Harrier like so, make it steeper and steeper, then eventually our Harrier stops being a Harrier and becomes a hover. Okay. As I say, it does take a lot of practice to be able to do this. It does become quite relaxing, however, when you do learn how to do it, because you can sit there for indefinitely and just hover the plane around. And it shouldn't be a panicked manoeuvre or thing that you're doing. It should be a fairly relaxing thing once you do get the hang of it. So as you persist with it, it becomes easier. You can maneuver the plane around. We can bring it closer here. We can make it further away just by tipping the body of the plane a little bit, and we can even go sideways like so. Let me get past this flag, etc. So we can kind of move the plane sideways as well by just angling the body to the side either way. Let's get away from all these marquees. Now with the Harrier and also with the hover, if you get into trouble, it starts to go wrong, you just add some power and away you go. So we're low, we're slow, we're adding power, and that's our exit plan. Same with the Harrier. If you're in trouble with the Harrier, the response should be to just add power. That's the initial response. If we're in a Harrier flying along, like I did yesterday, and we get into a stall, like so, turning, it'll stall. I just add power and start to control the plane again. Okay? So learning the hover is another thing that just takes practice. You need to practice it until you become able to do it, and that's really all that it takes. Okay, the next thing is, this is the hover. I'm not very good at torque rolls, but I'll show you what they are. We're holding right aileron at the moment to keep the plane facing with the canopy towards us. If we release the aileron, the plane will naturally want to, so I'm not very good at them, naturally want to roll with the torque of the motor. Try it again. And that's the torque roll. Okay, as I say, not very good at those. All these things take practice for me as well. That's what I need to do next. Some of the benefits of the hover is that, as I say, you can learn how to do other things like knife edges fairly well. It's a skill that you pick up if you learn how to hover, then you learn how to knife edge as well. We can knife edge at any angle. It's all part of the same skill set that we learn when we learn how to hover the plane. Go the other direction. And that's about all I can think of with the hover. That's about it really. Nothing else to add, I think. Come back around and land. That wasn't very pretty. There we go. That is the hover.